Hello guys, I hope everyone would have gone to this week's coding questions. So let us now get in the first question. So the first question is like a pattern. So you'll be accepting an integer n as an input and you'll be printing a pattern. So when you analyze this pattern, mm, the output is like this, right? But when you recreate this as or a kind of pattern, you say it like look and say sequence. Okay, so is what this pattern is called for, and it is nothing but the first thing will be constantly one, and the second thing will be like the previous one's count and the value. That is, if first row contains 1, then the second row will be the count of 1 and the value 1, and then the third row will be like the previous row's values count and the value. That is, the previous row contains two ones and the value is 1. So next the row will be like the first value is 2, right? So how many 2's are there? There is only 1 2, so 1 2, and then next value is 1. So how many 1's are there? There is only 1 right? So 1 and 1. So this goes like this, and then the last row will be like firstly there will be the value is 1. So before that is how much 1 is there. You should consider these ones before that particular one value, like it should be a continuous sequence. Okay, so there is only one and then there is only 1 2, and continuously there is 2 1, so 2 1. So you'll be printing the last row as the output. So it's what it goes like. So let us now implement this solution using Python first. So end input, and I'm gonna have a list which contains 1 as constant, and then I'm gonna iterate to like for j in range of 1 comma n, because I need only n minus 1 row. So I'm gonna iterate from 1 to n. Okay, so I'm gonna next declare an empty list to append the current row values, and I'm gonna have a variable called c which would contain the count. Okay, so next will be like for now I'm gonna count that particular value, like I'm gonna count the continuous integer values. So for j in range of for I in range of 1 comma len of a to the last, if a of I is equal to a of I minus 1. Okay, so I'm gonna consider the values from 1 to the last value. So I'm gonna compare it to the previous values. Okay, so if it is so, I'm gonna increment the c value with 1. Else, if the continuous thing has broken, I'm gonna append the c value to b and the value of the particular integer to b. So the value will be like c minus a of I minus 1 will be having the value, and I'm reconsidering the c value to 1. So finally out of this loop, we will be missing out the last value. So I'm gonna append that particular c value and that particular value. Okay. So there will be like n of a minus 1. So this loop will be going till this, right? So we won't be appending this particular value. So for that I'm gonna give this. Okay, and I'm gonna have this array called a again to get the like we need the last row, right? So I'm gonna have an empty array. So for I in p, I'm gonna append this I, and lastly I'm gonna print this particular A. So that this A will be having the values of each row. It will be appending the values of each row. So the last out of this loop, you will be having the value of the last row, right? So this lot. So you can use any logic. You can also implement this using a string. You will be concatenating each value to a string. Now I've done using array. So you can do it with anything. So I'm gonna give the input as 5. So it's like 111, 221. Okay, let me check. Yeah, it's perfect. So we have done. So let me just change the compiler and implement this in C language. Let me change the comments. Let me remove this sort of code and I'll implement this in C now. Okay. So let us now scroll down a bit. So we need a header file stdio.h and declaring the main function. Okay, so we need a variable colon to get the integer, and we need array like A. This will have a constant one previously, and we need array call is of 101 to append the values of each row, so that like you will be appending the values count of each value in this array. And I need iteration variables, and this cave will be used to iterate the indexes of the particular array. And L is equal to 1, and see, I'll just let you know what is L is equal to 1 when it is implemented. So we are getting this scanf of n, and from n is equal to 1 to n is lesser than or sorry, so j is equal to 1 and j is lesser than n. So I'm considering k is equal to 0 and c is equal to 1 initially. So I'm going to iterate to I is equal to 1 to L. Okay, so yeah, so this L is nothing but the length of this particular array A. So this array A will initially will have one element, right? So the length will be 1 obviously. So I'm going to give that, and this length will be incrementing, like it will be changing I plus plus. So if a of I is equal to a of minus 1, the same thing we did in Python, and count will be incremented, else b of k plus plus will be the count, and b of k plus plus will be, I'm giving post increment so that it decrements after printing it. Okay, you can also give like b of k is equal to c and b of plus plus k is equal to a of many. You can also give that, and if not, you should not. If you don't want to confuse yourself, you can just give like k is equal to 0 and b of k is equal to c, and increment the k value, again b of k is equal to 1 and increment the k value, to make it simple. But this is much more efficient, right? And I'm initializing the c value again to 1. So out of this first loop, I'm gonna again append the c value and append the c value, and I'm gonna assign that last element, right? So the last element like minus 1, L minus 1, sorry. So and L is equal to 0 then, and I'm gonna append this particular thing to that variable A, plus plus, and A of L is equal to B of I and L plus plus. Yeah, So out of these loops, all the loops, I'm gonna print that particular value now. So for I is equal to 0 and I is lesser than L, I plus plus, and I'm gonna print that particular A of J value. Okay, let me give a space over here. Yeah, I pretty much done. Let me check. Right. Okay. We done a minor mistake. Let me check where did I mess up. Okay. So initially j is equal to 1 and j is lesser than n, fine. And k is equal to 0, c is equal to 1, I is equal to 1, I is less than okay. Yeah. And p plus plus commenting, and c is equal to 1. Okay. I is equal to 0, I is less than k, I plus plus, and I plus plus. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. So it will be like a of I, right? Just silly mistake. Yeah, we are pretty much done with the first question. Now we'll move on to the second question. The second question like is a matrix. So when you observe the particular matrix, the outer region will be covered with X, and next region will be covered with O, and the next region will be covered with X, and so on. So you will be bordering up and you will be going to the innermost, and the middle you'll be having a middle one. So if there is another row, you'll be having a middle one, like in 3x3 you had a middle one like this. Okay, so when you observe that this is like 4 and 5 means here 4 is column and 5 is row, so you need to check that. So 5 rows and 4 columns, so you need to consider that. So let me just implement this in Python. So we need to get the column and R value from the user, map of in comma input dot split, and initially I'm gonna assign the matrix C in R into C matrix with values with O. So I'm gonna give all the values of the matrix with as O, and then I'm gonna change it as per the need access. So wherever I need X, I'm gonna change it. So initially I'm gonna assign O to all the places. For that I'm giving for j in range of C and for I in range of R, right? Yeah, so here we gonna consider 4 variables. So this 4 variables is like, it will be like X, Y, Z and K. So the X will hold the starting position of it will consider the starting position of row. Okay, and Y will have the ending position of row. That like you'll be having R. Okay, not R minus 1, we are gonna get not the index value, we are gonna consider the position. Okay, so then Z will hold the ending position of column and K will hold the middle position of the column. So like I need to solve this particular bordering in the middle position of the column. So you can see that I have solved this bordering up to here. I have not bordered against this, I have not bordered again here. So you can see that, right? Here also I have stopped bordering in the middle position. So I have to stop bordering theta so that I am having the middle position. So if it is a odd. If number of columns is odd, I'm gonna give k plus equal to 1, so that in the 3 cross 3 matrix you had a variable, like you had a innermost value 0. So to assign this value, I need the k plus 1 value. Okay, so while x is lesser than k, that is the row starting value is lesser than k. Okay, so I'm gonna iterate. So I'm gonna fill first this thing and this thing, and then I'm gonna fill the left and right. So I'm gonna first fill the top and bottom, and then the left and right. Okay, for top and bottom I'm gonna give for I range of x comma z. Okay, so the starting position to the ending position. So starting position will be 0 and the ending position will be the column, ending of the column, right? So for x of j is equal to x, and for y, so y will be the ending position of the column, right? So for y minus 1 of j, so y minus 1 of j means, so for topmost thing the row value will be 0, and for the last thing the row value will be like it will be like the row value minus 1, right? So I'm gonna give y minus 1 here. Okay, I'm gonna assign this capital X. So this will be constant and only the columns will be varying. And then when we consider left and right, the columns will be constant and the rows will be varying, right? So for that, for I in range of x comma y, so to iterate to like to iterate to the rows, I'm gonna give a of I of x is equal to x, and a of I of z minus 1 is equal to x over here. Okay, yeah. So and then we need to increment and decrement some values, right? So here I'm gonna increment this x value, that is the starting position. This will be the starting position, sorry, this x will be the starting position of let me just give over here. So x will be the starting of column, and y will be the ending of row, and z will be the ending of column. So sorry to say that I just said x value as wrong in the starting. So x will be having the starting value of the column, and z will have the ending value of column, and y will holding the end value of row. So when you look at that, the next bordering I don't wanna change the values because already I've assigned O to all the values. So I can just keep that bordering and I can just go to the next bordering. For that, I have to increment some values with 2 and decrement some values with 2. So for that, I'm gonna increment the column value with 2 and the row value I'm gonna decrement, and again the column value, that is the end of the column, I'm gonna decrement. Okay, yeah. So then I want to print the variables of a. For I in a, I'm gonna print star of a. Yeah, we're pretty much done. So when you just understand this, why I've given x, y, z and k values, you will get to know the pattern so well. So x stands for the start of the column, y stands for the end of the row, c stands for end of the column, and k will hold the middle of that particular matrix so that we don't border after that. So if c is, that is the middle element, number of columns is even, it's not an even, then we'll be incrementing k plus 1 so that you will be having a single middle element. So till k, that is till the start of the column gets to the middle of the column, we are gonna iterate. And first we are gonna fill the top and bottom, and then the left and right. We are gonna increment and decrement the values. This is kind of simple when you understand the x, y, z and k values. So when you run, let me give 3 and 3. Okay, yeah, oh sorry, I'll just give a 2 double and just give 3 and 3. It works perfect. Let me give 4 and 5. Yeah, it works perfect. I can just check out with different test cases. And now I'm gonna implement this particular thing with C language. So I just change the comment. Yeah. So we need header file hashtag include htdivo.h and hashtag include string.h, since we are going to assign the character values and we're going to deal with it. So here I'm going to declare the main function 10 0 and mini variables like rcij. Okay, and I'm going to get the r and c values from the user, that is c comma r. And now I'm going to declare a character variable, character 2-dimensional array. Okay, so for I am going to assign the values as O to all. Sorry, A of I and J would be O. Okay, so now I'm going to assign the values of x is equal to 0 and the value of y is equal to r and the value of z is equal to c and the value of k is equal to c divided by 2. So now I'm gonna check whether the c value is equal to 0 means I'm gonna increment the k value as 1. So now while x is lesser than k, I'm gonna give z is equal to we need to iterate from x to z, right? So j is lesser than z and j plus plus, and we are gonna assign the values like x of j is equal to x and y minus 1 of j is equal to x. Okay, so now I'm gonna iterate from x to y, right? So for I is equal to x and I is lesser than y and I plus plus, I'm gonna give a of I of x is equal to x and a of I of z minus 1 will be x. So out of this loop I'm gonna increment and decrement the x and y values. So here I'm gonna give x plus is equal to 2 and z minus equal to 2 and y minus equal to 2. So I'm gonna close this for loop, and out of this for loop I'm gonna print that character array for I is equal to 0, I is lesser than r, I plus plus, and for j is equal to 0, j is lesser than c, j plus plus, and printf of characters c space a of j. Yeah, So all of this loop, I'm gonna give printf. So let us now give 3 comma 3. It's worked perfect. And 4 comma 5. Yeah, it's working perfect. You can just check out with the other test cases. Yeah, we're pretty much done with the 2 coding questions. So if you have any doubt, you can reach out to our discussion forum. Thank you.